Good evening, fourth grade champions. We're continuing our book, Out of My Shell by Jenny Goebel. I'm beginning on page 16, chapter 2. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you're enjoying our reading together. The largest living hard-shelled turtle in the world is the loggerhead sea turtle. I overslept. I couldn't help it. I only woke when Lainey slipped a note under my door. Ever since she started first grade, she'd been obsessed with lists. I knew her top 3 flavors of ice cream: cake batter, strawberry, and cookie dough. Her 5 favorite colors in order: yellow, purple, turquoise, mango orange, and cotton candy blue. Her 7 favorite books and her 10 favorite animals. I'm not sure I even know those things about myself. I retrieved the piece of paper and opened it up. Things with shells: nuts, clams, eggs, Olivia. I glanced at the time on my phone and groaned. It was already almost noon. No wonder Lainey thought I was acting like what? A turtle hiding in a shell? She was always doing that, pointing out similarities between things that, to me, seemed worlds apart. She compares snowdrifts to ocean waves and hear music and the rustle of leaves. Dad said once it was because she has an artist's soul, like your mother. When I'd cocked an eyebrow and smirked at that, something I'd seen him do to Mom 100 times before, he chuckled and added, "Not exactly our forte. We prefer things that are more concrete, like facts and figures." Then he lightly bumped my shoulder. I hurried downstairs and found Mom and Lainey on their way out to build a sandcastle on the beach. "Hey there, sleepyhead," Mom said, and asked if I wanted to join them. I didn't feel like it, but I said yes anyway. Back in the fall, Dad and I worked up a design for a multi-story creation with spiral staircases and pointed spires. We drew the plans for our dream sandcastle on a long white paper roll. I stashed the roll in my closet next to my flip-flops and summer clothes. But when I'd found out Dad wasn't coming this year, I'd left it at home. Mom and Lainey piled mounds of sand close to the water, but far enough from the surf that they wouldn't wash away. I sat down next to them and stared out at the ocean. After a few minutes of Mom and Lainey doing all the scooping and not molding, Mom said, "Earth to live. We could use your help." I snapped into action. "Here, Lainey, I can do that," I said. And she happily surrendered her shovel to me and started playing with a bucket in the water. "Not too far," Mom told Lainey. Then to me she said, "I really should have gotten her into swim lessons this past spring, but everything was so crazy." "I can teach her," I said. Then without thinking, blurted out, "Dad taught me." Mom's lips rolled inward, her brow furrowed, and her eyes blinked a little too rapidly. We'll see. Feeling bad for reminding Mom about the past, I threw myself into shoveling sand. The thing was, once I got into it, everything else sort of melted away. I could remember enough of the plan Dad and I had come up with. And as I focused in, adding details and dimension to what Lainey and Mom had started, it transformed into something amazing. It was going to be the best sandcastle we ever made. Until Lainey ruined it. Just as I was adding the final touches, my sister ran back with her bucket. "It needs a moat," she cried, and poured way too much water. She may have inherited Mom's gift for imagination, but her artistic skills were lagging. Mom tried to salvage the castle by dragging her finger through the sand and creating swirly designs up the sides, but I didn't want a moat and swirls. I wanted what Dad and I had dreamed up, a dramatic castle, not a fanciful one. Staring at Mom and Lainey's recreation, I felt a flicker of irritation. The sandcastle Dad and I spent so much time planning would never be built. I mumbled something about being thirsty and needing a glass of water. then left before they noticed my disappointment. I didn't want to spoil it for Lainey and Mom, too. They were obviously pleased with the transformation. As I walked away, Lainey was wondering aloud if adding seashells would make good bathtubs for the fairies that would inhabit the castle. To distract myself from my thoughts, I checked my phone as soon as I was back inside. Dad had texted while I was out on the beach. "How has your day been? What did you do?" What if I were honest? What if I said that things weren't the same, that I felt like I was crumbling inside? I knew exactly what would happen. Dad would call Mom, they'd both be upset, they'd fight, and it would be my fault. So I took a deep breath and typed, "Great, we built a sandcastle." "Nice, I'd love to see a photo," he fired back. I steeled myself to go back outside to take one, but by the time I'd gotten it together, Mom and Lainey were coming in. Mom wanted to take a nap, and my grandparents were running errands, so I spent the rest of the afternoon entertaining Lainey. Later that night, after I thought everyone had gone to bed, I snuck outside again. I wasn't 20 steps from the landing when my feet were nearly swept out from under me. "Liv!" Lainey cried as she wrapped herself around my lower torso. My sister never stopped moving. She was like a pinball, constantly knocking into people and objects around her. I peeled her off my legs. "Why are you out here, Lainey? Go back inside." Unfazed, she skipped hop to investigate something in the sand a few feet away. If I were into lists the way Lainey was, I might record all the unwords that describe my sister. Unfazed, undaunted, unworried, undeterred. When Mom and Dad told us about the divorce, Lainey's biggest concern had been whether her stuffed sloth and favorite pillow could come along when we stayed at Dad's new apartment. Like all shared custody meant was never-ending sleepovers. Liv, come quick, it's a ghost crab," Lainey's voice surged with delight. My head popped up. Part of me wanted to propose a hunt like the ones Dad and I went on a couple of times each summer. We could grab flashlights. I could scoop Lainey's hand in mine, and we could stay up late searching for sinkholes in the sand and wispy tracks across the beach. Without realizing, I took a few steps in Lainey's direction. I stopped myself. I said, "Go inside, Lainey. Mom doesn't want you out here after dark." Mom probably wanted both of us to stay inside at night, unless we were with an adult. I caught my bottom lip between my teeth and bit down gently. How upset would Mom be if she knew I was sneaking out at night? But I needed this time to myself nearly as much as I needed air to breathe or food to eat. It felt like a necessity. My sister was still ignoring me as she scrambled farther down the beach in pursuit of a skittering crab. "Lainey, get back here." I tore after my sister and caught her by the straps of her yellow ribbed tank top. "Let me go," she whined, wriggling and twisting, trying to pull away. I said, "You're going back to the house." She pleaded with me. She squirmed and stretched out her shirt. I held tight, then gave one sharp tug backward. Upright again, she rocketed around, forcing the straps out of my hand. She scrunched her face and jutted her chin. She looked exactly like Mom does when she gets mad. Same wild and wavy golden blonde hair puffed out even more by the humidity. Same gray-green eyes. I crossed my arms and stared her down. I must have looked like Dad in that moment. Same pale skin, same slant to the bridge of my nose, same pointy chin, same brown eyes and dull brown hair. And in every single cell, a thin streak of stubborn that came out now and then, most definitely now. I stood there unmoved, unflinching, unyielding, reveling in my own list of unwords until she finally relented. "Fine," she said. "Fine," I said. She marched across the beach, kicking up sand with her heels and tossing angry glances over her shoulder every few feet. I trailed her long enough to see that she'd made it inside and hadn't tried to slip away only to sneak up on me again. Then I found my way to my spot between the dunes and planted myself there. As my stubbornness waned, I felt guilty for shooing Lainey away. But it was for the best, wasn't it? Lainey couldn't swim, and she was what Dad called a loose cannon. I couldn't keep an eye on her near the ocean when I was barely keeping myself together. Absently, I combed my hands through the sand. A cool, hard object sank into my right palm as the sand shifted through my fingers. When I glanced down to find a piece of sea glass, frosty green and sparkling in the moonlight, the crevice in my heart cracked open a hair's breadth wider. When sailors drown, mermaids cry, and their tears wash ashore. I could hear Dad's voice in my head. I pictured him, not as I'd seen him a few days ago, but the way he looked when he was here last summer, all bookish, pale knobby knees and red sunburned shoulders. I pictured him plucking the mermaid tears from the beach and surrendering them to my already overflowing pockets. This sea glass, or mermaid tear, was tumbled and rounded by the ocean. I rubbed it between my thumb and fingers. A thin film of dried salt water and sand coated the glass. It had that unique, crusty feel that only something coughed up by the sea has. The glass had once been a bottle or jar, discarded into the ocean, battered and lost for who knew how long before returning to land. The weight of it in my palm made my heart ache, and longing worse. I buried my feelings, or at least I tried to, as I stared out at the endless water on the horizon. Mom and Laney's sandcastle cast a curious shadow on the beach between me and the ocean. I remembered the photo Dad had asked for and dragged myself to my feet. Had he been disappointed I never sent one? I could try now, but I worried there wasn't enough light. And when I pulled out my phone, the moon disappeared behind a cloud, making the sky grow even darker. As I was lamenting the terrible conditions for snapping a photo, a strip of illuminated water caught my attention. Something about that seemed off. And the moon was hidden. Where was the light coming from? I turned my head and followed a peculiar ray shining on the surf. It was coming from the beachcomber. The renovated inn was so bright its light was extending across the waves. As I followed the beam back to the ocean's edge, I saw her, a sea turtle, probably the same one I'd spotted the night before, was slowly crawling from the surf directly in front of me. Oh, I whispered, releasing the weight of my troubles with a single breath. Seeing the turtle had a way of doing that for me. Then I watched in soundless awe as the turtle dragged herself forward. I'd seen the roped-off areas on the island every summer. I knew sea turtles came ashore to nest from May until October. She was coming to make a nest. She had to be. We're going to stop right there in the middle of page 25, and we'll start tomorrow with the middle of the page, She Was Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow.